and they decided to get out of this business.
It was really handled poorly by Microsoft.
Various types of spirits, but mostly whiskeys.
Tried a HoloLens last Friday. Welcome to the Service Smiths Podcast, episode 35. He's David.
He's Colin.
And I'm Cortana Smith. Welcome to the Surface Smiths Podcast, the show about the Microsoft Surface and related products and technologies such as Windows, Windows Phone, Xbox, and mobile computing in general.
So before we get into the news, Dave, what do we usually have for our listeners?
We have a word of the week.
Right. So our listeners are called Surface Nation, and they've turned our show into a drinking game.
As all good shows should be.
And when they hear the word of the week, they take a sip. So what's the word of the week this week, David?
The word of the week is Canada.
Canada. I've heard of Canada. All right. So shall we get right into the news?
Let's get into it.
News story of the week.
Today is May 10th. So that's going to be quite important for a few of the announcements we're talking about. So it is May 10th today, but you're not going to hear the show probably for at least a week. And today, Microsoft opened up 2 data centers in Canada. They've been in preview mode for a while. But what does that mean? That means Office 365 and Azure Infrastructure as a Service, that means VMs, can now be hosted in 2 data centers that are in Canada. Publicly available as of today, about 3 hours ago. I think about 2 in the afternoon. We'll link the announcement. But I've been working those data centers for about 6 months since they've been available in preview mode. But now they're generally available to the general public. If you've got workloads running in another data center, there is a way to move them there. And you can guarantee data stays within a Canadian data center.
And that's good for some people. Some people want to be in Canada in particular, like certain government contracts. And some people don't want to be in certain countries. Maybe you don't want to be in the States.
Right.
You might not be Canadian, but you don't want to be in the States.
For a lot of organizations I've been dealing with, data residency, although they call it data sovereignty incorrectly, data residency is an issue for them, even though they don't fully understand it. It's the optics of having data that you use to run your business or have client records or something like that outside of the country that you reside in or operate your business in. The legal issues are many, mostly misunderstood, and most people are just overly cautious.
Colin plays a lawyer on TV.
Yes.
So he'll be able to say, I'm not sure.
Well, no, I've done a lot of work around data sovereignty and data residency for organizations, helping them understand that where their data resides may or may not be important to them. The laws around it are very, very vague for most organizations. But you know what? That discussion is over now for a lot of Canadian organizations. They've just been waiting for the data centers to open up, and now they can move their data in there. And those data centers are in Canada. Have a sip.
Okay.
More news.
So this really relates to what we were talking about with the episode with Joel. We were having a discussion about how the next Windows Phone doesn't need to be an Atom processor, because with Atom processor, you get a lot of cost. You might have a lower reliability. You just get a whole bunch of things that
Battery issues,
or you may get one or all of these things. We know we don't have them with a Qualcomm phone or ARM processor. So Intel obviously listened to our podcast before it released it and went, they are so right. And they decided to get out of this business.
So that was a couple of days after we recorded with Joel. They decided they're dropping the mobile Atom chip, which is the Atom chip, mobile Atom chip, which is the Atom chip with LTE. So that's really interesting. 2 things we talked about with Joel. One was that you can't get data residency in Office 365 in Canada, and all of a sudden now you can. We're talking about whether the next phone from Microsoft or the Surface phone should be an Atom-based or an ARM-based chip. Well, guess what? Now it can't be an Atom-based chip because there's not going to be one from Intel anytime soon.
You know, I've been storing the show notes in the cloud in the States. So maybe the Americans have been listening to what we're talking
about. Or at least stealing our show notes. Okay. So, Joel, we need to have you on the show more often. You really are a harbinger of things to come.
Spicing things up for sure.
Okay. So we had a listener. He goes by 2 names. He goes by, this is Rami on iTunes, and by Lee in his email world. I don't know what his real name is necessarily, but he's been corresponding with the show a couple of times, and he listened in when we were talking about our firmware update, Surface Dock firmware update, and
which gets automatically done when your computer gets updated.
If you're connected to your dock.
When you're connected to your dock, when it happens.
Right. However, he told us that there is a tool that you can use to check if your dock has the latest firmware.
And update it.
And so thank you, Lee / this is Rami. We're going to add that to the show notes for the rest of Surface Nation to use should they need to.
So obviously, if you have a bunch of Surface docks in a shared scenario, this is much better than hoping your users will update them.
So Lee / this is Rami also sent us a copy of a letter he received from Microsoft. We've talked about this before. We talked last year that OneDrive was going to be shrinking the amount of free storage.
For some users, yes, the free storage.
Right. There's no more unlimited. So for quite some time, Microsoft was saying, store everything there.
Was it going to be free unlimited?
Whether it's free or not is not really the issue. The issue is you cannot get unlimited.
I know with my Office 365 Unlimited, I only get a terabyte now.
Right. It's unlimited up to a terabyte.
Yes.
So we've talked about this before. It was really handled poorly by Microsoft. The whole concept of telling people, store everything here. This is OneDrive. You don't worry what device you use, and it follows you around. It's everywhere. And even people who bought Windows phones or other Windows devices couldn't, they wanted to store their photos or whatever was on their device. They are scaling them down to 5 gigs. So here's the letter that Microsoft's been sending out to OneDrive users. Now, some people were able to maintain their 15 gigs if they told Microsoft that they didn't want to be downgraded. I forgot to do that, but I didn't really care because I've got Office 365 with a little bit more storage already. So, David, do you want to read the letter that came from Microsoft to Lee?
I'd be happy to. It says, we want to let you know some upcoming changes to OneDrive. On August 10th, 2016, the amount of storage that comes with OneDrive will change from 15 to 5 gigs. We are also discontinuing the 15 gigabyte camera roll bonus. So that could mean you're going from 30 to 5.
Exactly.
So
this affects all 18 of the Windows Phone users.
Well, no. I use it on my Android phone as well.
But the camera roll bonus, I thought, came with people that had Windows phones. Anyways.
Could be. So no action. No, I love this part. It's customized. No action is needed because your OneDrive account is currently below the storage limit. Wonder what it says if your OneDrive is above. No action is needed because we'll delete 10 gigs of your data.
Right.
I'm not sure that,
finish reading this and make fun of it.
It seems petty. Even though you aren't currently affected, we want to keep you updated on all the important changes to OneDrive. If you'd like to check your account, you can visit the storage page. We realize big changes to the service you rely on. We want to apologize for any inconvenience this might cause you. We made a difficult decision, but it's one that will let us sustainably operate OneDrive into the future. That's an ominous way to end it.
Yes, using the term sustainability seems to be an easy way to justify bad decisions.
Well, I guess they must have figured out that people were spending they were just backing up all their camera photos and never looking at them. So they weren't getting any value out of it, and it was costing Microsoft a lot of money. Sure.
I guess they decided to take this on the chin. It's going to cause some customers to be decided to get over it. But what's the basic Dropbox now or Google Drive?
I don't know.
I think they're both above 5 gigs. But anyways, thanks, Rami / Lee. Let's move on. What's next in the news?
Well, again, we were speaking a couple of weeks ago about how data could be stored in DNA, and Microsoft is actually working on that. So
we talked to Pierre Roman about that.
Yeah, it just kind of came up briefly, and here we have an article. And
can you read this word, David?
Which word?
So it's if this oligonucleotides.
Oh, good. Excuse me. And a twist from bioscience to encode digital data. But can you imagine if it gets up and starts walking around?
Wow. What if it got into GM food?
Exactly.
You could, what a perfect way for a secret agent or a spy to destroy the data. He ate the GM banana that had all the.
Instead of Johnny Mnemonic, which was basically a hard drive with double space or double the compression on the back of his head, you could just have a little bit of something stuck in your teeth.
Yes, that's right. So that was the movie based on the book. The book was called Neuromancer. But yes, I remember that. Okay, let's move on. So as we near the anniversary of Windows 10,
yes,
Microsoft has given us some new numbers. 300 million devices are now running Windows 10.
Which includes, of course, Xbox. It includes
a handful of phones.
It includes 12 phones. Hi, Peter. Hi, Joel.
Yes.
And 10 other people.
No, Peter didn't get one. He got an Android, I thought.
Oh, I thought he hadn't pulled the switch yet.
Okay, I don't know. So anyways, doesn't really matter. But they're reminding you that the offer ends soon. Windows 10 will not be free after July 29. I don't know. I'm gonna let's play.
It's a speculation.
Okay, so let's. I'm gonna pick a number and you say higher or lower. It'll be $10.
Well, my advice, sure, I'd say $10. Higher.
Higher.
Yes.
Okay.
My advice to Microsoft would
American or Canadian?
Your choice.
Well, I just want to say Canada for the thirsty people.
Okay, let's say my advice to Microsoft would be to stop giving it out for free, because if you haven't upgraded in a year, you're really not that interested. So, and just like you said, charge a nominal fee.
Okay.
Because why bother offering it free? I mean, who has Windows 7 in a non-enterprise that wants to upgrade in the future?
Well, here's really my issue with charging a nominal amount. I think they're probably going to charge something small, but even the effort required to charge for something has some administrative costs. So if you've got to invoice and charge somebody, you've got credit card transaction fees, all sorts of things. There's a whole lot of administrative overhead, and probably well north of $10.
I got an idea.
What's that?
Okay, so in the stores, because people love to run into stores and buy stuff. So they're
lining up for Apple devices.
They'll sell it through the stores. All these stores, you'll be able to go in and buy a CD or just a piece of paper for $10, exactly US for the anniversary edition.
Maybe. I don't think so, though. All right, what else have we got?
I don't think so either, but I can't imagine what else they would do. Apparently, I'm satisfied.
Are you?
Well,
congratulations, Veronica.
I am a Surface user, and according to the most recent data,
the JD Power's user satisfaction results, Surface users are mostly satisfied. However,
just like iPad users.
No, the iPad users are more satisfied if you look at the report.
But both satisfied. They're very close. Of course, it's hard to not be satisfied with an iPad because it only does 150,000 applications.
But it works.
And it works.
And you don't have firmware updates every other week.
Well, actually, you do get a lot of updates. But it's just an update.
I can't warm up my lunch using the hot bag.
True. And you don't have to worry about pen. Well, you do if you have an iPad Pro.
Right. So again, today is May 10th, and as of yesterday, there's a whole nother batch of firmware updates for the Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book.
I didn't know that. I will have to update. So, Colin, you were bragging on the weekend that you played with the HoloLens.
I did. I tweeted a picture. I tried a HoloLens last Friday, and it was pretty cool. Very cool.
Didn't see the picture. Let's put that in the show notes. Or what is it a picture of?
It's me using the HoloLens.
Oh, okay.
Because obviously I can't do a 3D picture of what I'm seeing.
Well, they do have that.
They have a simulator, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then today, in the interest of science, we went to Best Buy and tried out the VR gear.
Right. Well, you've already got the VR gear, but I tried it out very quickly.
Well, how many times have I mentioned that I have it?
Never.
So therefore, I'm not particularly enthralled
or using
or
it.
Pissed off with it.
Or yeah, I've got lots of shelfware as well.
Right.
So I really enjoyed using the HoloLens. So for those of you that have never tried it, nah.
That would be everybody.
So a friend of mine named Colin lives in Halifax. He used to live in Ottawa. He's got the SDK. He's got one of 10 HoloLens kits available in Canada right now. Mm-hmm. And he's doing some work with it, and he let me try it out. So just a reminder,
he better be doing some work with it. He just spent $3,000 US.
I don't think he actually paid. I think Microsoft gave it to him.
Ah, okay.
But I was at MVP open days in Toronto. I'll talk more about that later. And I got to try it out. So remember, it's augmented reality. So when you're looking through the lens, you're actually seeing the space around you, objects around you, people around you. And what's happening is that items get tagged and then an augmented reality gets painted over top of them. So if you imagine the scenario where you're walking through an oil refinery, and as you look, the
tree starts on fire.
No. That's just nasty, David.
Okay.
If you're looking at valves and dials and things like that, every item's got a part number. It's got a mean time between failure, and it tells you when it was installed and when it's predicted to fail. And then you get a color coding. So things that are red are things that are going to fail within the next two weeks, as an example, versus things that are green or things that are not going to fail for another year. And so if you're doing maintenance and somewhere in the refinery and you're in a particular area and you have to repair something, maybe you can repair the pieces around it that are also going to fail soon. As an example, that's what augmented reality would allow you to do. The experience I had two experiences where they painted a few objects around me, hovering around me. They painted a model of the solar system that I could walk around. I could poke at, I could manipulate, so I could zoom in on a planet. I could hold the planet in my hand and have it rotating in my hand. I could zoom in and I could interact using my fingers. Those of you listening now, I'm moving my fingers all over the place. And I could interact with that augmented reality world. But as I walked around, the chairs and tables and things were still there and visible for me to see.
Could you set that rotating world on top of a cat and the cat runs? I mean, would then the tag get transferred from your hand to another thing?
Yes, you could tag an object to another object would follow it. What it would do is would just follow that object. The cat would still be there. I'd still see the cat, but I'd also see the planet on the cat. And it would move as the cat moved.
Interesting. But so from augmented reality in some sort of real life situation, you could have a manual that's floating off to the side of the real thing, or you could have it changing the color of certain objects based on what is happening or could be happening. Think
about a field medic wearing the HoloLens, and he's going to have to do some surgery to save someone's life in a remote situation, whether it's a battlefield situation or whether it's a search and rescue or something like that. And, it would be cut here, clamp here, splice there, and, save someone's life. Whereas the Samsung VR gear, which uses some Oculus Rift technology, really just created a whole new room.
From a technology point of view, just the Microsoft one is a whole computer.
Yes.
And it's going to be fairly expensive. Whereas the VR one, it's like the Google Cardboard, except it's plastic.
Right. So with that one, the interesting thing is I look at a whole other room. But if I move, I don't see the objects around me anymore. So I see tables and chairs and lamps in that room. It looks like a home theater. I can interact. I use the Netflix app, and so I could start a Netflix show or movie. But it wasn't intuitive. I couldn't manipulate it with my hands. I had to actually press buttons on the goggles,
which is definitely awkward. I haven't used it enough for that not to be awkward.
Yes, totally awkward. And the other thing is, I'm looking at a room, I'm seeing chairs and tables and things. If I try to walk towards them, I'm going to trip over other things because I'm not seeing what's in my actual reality.
Now, there is one mode that you're able to actually use the camera and look through it.
I didn't try that.
Yes, but I'm not. That's certainly not augmented reality.
So, got to use one of the first HoloLenses in Canada and tried out against the Samsung VR gear. And I could see uses for both. One really played to the entertainment model, where the other one seemed more utilitarian and more industrial.
Partially for price too.
Yeah.
$100.
Well, again, so
great for games.
I've said this a lot. The Microsoft product is missing one feature that I really like.
What feature is that?
I can actually buy it.
Shipping is a feature.
Yeah.
Is that a feature or is
that was the reason I didn't get my Windows Phone before Christmas. I couldn't buy it in Canada. Right. I had the same thing with the HoloLens. You cannot buy it in Canada, but you can buy the Samsung VR gear. So that's one feature, and it's in the positives column for it.
You can buy the developer kit for $3,000 US, and they may sell it to you.
Sure, but there's no apps for it. Just samples.
Yep.
All right, so this is one of our crisp episodes. This is our news episode, I mentioned, David, that I was trying the HoloLens at MVP Open. That was an event in Toronto. Went down for that, met many of the MVPs from across Canada. They were all invited. Many of them were there. Many of you have said that you want to be on the show, so I'll be reaching out. So thanks for having a great time, everyone. There's a lot of stuff there that was NDA that I can't speak about, but met a lot of people I only corresponded with online. Other people, met some old friends again that I hadn't seen in a while. Had a great time. We went out, had a good dinner and a night out as well. That was a lot of fun. And then we went to, on Saturday, David came into town on Friday night. We went to, what was it, David?
Spirit of Toronto.
And what's that all about?
Various types of spirits, but mostly whiskeys. A little bit of food, so you don't
I like whiskey,
drink too
David.
much. You do like whiskey. And some jazz.
That was a lot of fun. So you'll be hearing more about that in the future. We recorded some whiskey tastings and we talked to some distillers about their product. Many of the products that we've tasted on this show were represented there. So David and I, we've had a lot of fun. We've been doing lots of things in our spare time. What about you, Cortana? What have you been doing in your spare time?
After co-hosting on the Surface Smiths podcast, I've recently started listening to podcasts in my spare time. My current favorite is the Curious Minds podcast. It is a show about science, technology, and history. Each listing stories from a wide range of subjects, from physics and astronomy to medicine, art, and science fiction. The hosts, Ran Levi and Kelly O'Loughlin, are both entertaining and informative. I hope you get a chance to listen soon.
That's good, Cortana. There's a podcast I've been listening to recently called Short Life. It's based as there is he interviews people, short shows, about 15 minutes, about interesting things that they are doing in their life. The most recent one was a person in his neighborhood who built an airplane in his garage.
That's pretty cool. Maybe we should try to get on that show.
Oh, he's already offered. Is doing a podcast that interesting?
No, we do other things that are interesting.
Okay.
Like whiskey drinking
And doing a podcast?
Hacking Cortana.
There you go. Why don't we talk to him?
All right. Well, thanks for listening, Surface Nation.
Goodbye, Surface Nation.
Keep your stick on the ice. Go Canada.
Thanks for listening, Surface Nation. Here are some ways you can support and interact with the show. Like the show on Facebook at Slow the Show, on Twitter at Surface Smiths. Email the show at podcast@surfacesmiths.com. Check out the show notes and leave a comment on www.surfacesmiths.com. And of course, help others find out about the show by leaving a review on iTunes.
This is the Glenlivet Founders Reserve. Tell us about it.
So it's a new entry-level whiskey.
New entry-level whiskey.
Level.
All right.
Yeah, so it's delicate and light. There's some citrus, but there's also a little bit of sweet.
Delicate and light, citrus and sweet. Yeah. And
God, I'm an entry-level Scotch drink.
and you know what?
It's very easy to drink.
Yeah. It's the Toyota Camry of whiskeys. Maybe a Honda Civic. Honda Civic.
Okay, I'm driving a
15-year-old spent
drive a Swift.
12 years in regular oak, but the last 3 years,
All right.
he goes into
How do you
French
like it
oak.
though?
Very middle of the road.
Yeah.
Not
Really
spicy, not spicy, not toffee, not a little bit of everything. A little, not
Enjoyable.
yeah, nothing.
And they decided to get out of this business.
It was really handled poorly by Microsoft.
Various types of spirits, but mostly